I'm not really sure where we left off, and I'm sorry for the interruption. It's a Friday night when I'm recording this, and I have people coming in and places I wanted to be, but I wanted to go ahead and get this uploaded sometime. So this may be in 3-part series, and I do apologize for that. But at least I'm hoping you had time to go and get you a drink of water or a break or get you something to eat or do something. But anyway, we talked about the tools used in exploring phases, and those tools are found in your book, and they are the timeline, the genogram, and also the eco map. And we discussed different parts of that, and we'll go ahead and move on to our next topic of discussion. We also talked about the risk factors and protective factors. I kind of hit on that a little bit, so we're going to go on. And we had gotten to looking for strength, and I talked about that a little bit. And then aspects of strength. And we're going to talk about that because a lot of times, I talk to you that it's going to be difficult to find strength, but we have to. And we're some of the aspects of strengths are found on page 318 in your book, and I want you to really read that and look at those words that are bold, and you can also use your PowerPoint. But looking for competencies, and that means discovering traits and attributes that the client is good at, and then looking for access and social support. Now, a lot of times when people are going through problems, they feel like they're all alone. They feel like there's nobody but them. It is going to be your job and your responsibility to ensure that you help them, to encourage clients to identify clients or reflect on organizations or groups of people or different physical environments or in social environments or people, places, and things that can help them be of support. Now, like if you're working with AA and some groups, we ask people sometimes to look at places where they have to change their playgrounds and change things that are not helping them to reach their goal. As a social worker, we're thinking strength based. Who are the people? Who are the places? Where are the things, that will provide you support, that'll help you, remember, be at a place of peace, that will enhance your well-being. And, a lot of times people forget that they have those things. It will be your job and your role is to help them to find those places and ensure that they get there. Now, one of the ways that you have to do that, you remember when we first talked about class, we talked about, we don't just do things just because it sounds good. We use scientific inquiry. We talk about hypotheses and what is the educated guess? How we're going to get to this problem? We talk about all those things. Now we're going to start putting this into practice when you start exploring the problem as the client see it. What are the client's hypotheses of it? What is your role, your assessment of it, and what are your the hypotheses of it? Now let's look on before we go into that. Also, how do you the aspects of strength? Looking for success, identifying and recognizing positive outcomes. What have you done in the past? What worked well before? What didn't work? Well, can we explore this? Can we try this? Then looking for life lessons. Now I'm going to share this with you. Behind every problem, there's a lesson. And sometimes it be some hard lessons. Sometimes it be some really good lesson, but exploring and encouraging clients to consider, what did they learn from that problem? What did they realize from that? Let's go back to my pork rinds. I realized that I can have them maybe once a week, but I absolutely shouldn't have them every day or every other day because it makes my blood pressure run up. That's the lesson that I had to learn. Okay? So, it didn't mean that I had to stop, but it's important for you as professionals to be able to, it's not going to do you any good to get the client to talk about their problems and identify the problem if you're not willing to see what lessons can we learn behind them. Okay, we all can learn lessons behind problems, and then we have to help clients to see, what did you learn from that? What did you learn from that? I learned that in the event of a pandemic that I had to learn how to use YouTube. I had to learn how to be comfortable sitting in front of a video. You had to learn how to be comfortable interviewing your family members. What did you learn? I learned. What did you recognize? And I really, really, really like on some of your reflection papers. Some of you say you learn from you learn from your first one to the now that you can do this, that you can not be fidgety, that you can relax, you can make eye contact. So every lesson is a learn. Behind every situation, there's a lesson can be learned and something that you can recognize and be able to move forward. Now, and that goes well as with clients as well. Now, turn to page. Just tore my book. Turn to page 319. 320. And I want you to look at that figure, and I kind of start talking about that on page 319. And on 320. Look on that on page 320. Figure 9.8. And then it says the congruence between the client and the social worker explanation of change hypotheses. So the client is going to have an explanation of why this happened, blah, 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 blah. And how this change look, how this change oriented hypotheses look. And I want you to look on, let me find that. I had marked in this book, but I promise you my sticky note is gone. Yes, 319. Look at the top of that, and you'll see change-oriented hypotheses. That is what the client and you both coming up with. What does the client say is the hypotheses, the reason why I'm here? What does the change-oriented, once you talk about it, how do they process that? And then you do your change-oriented hypotheses. Looking at client's explanation and change hypotheses frequently contribute to or understanding of risk and protective factors. It's going to be real important that you read page 319 and 320 and look at there. And they're interconnected. Remember when the word in the beginning I said it's a collaborative effort. It's even collaborative in the explanation. And then it's also in the change-oriented hypotheses. So not at any given point is it an individual based on you as a social worker. You have to be fully engaged with your client. And see that on page 319 and 320. Pay real close attention to reading and get understanding that is a congruence with both of them, okay? Now, on page 321, how do you get to the point? And some of you, I can tell that some of you still did some rehearsed videos and kind of had a short story or a little clip or, and then I also could tell the ones of you who didn't have any idea what you're going to talk about. And that's what makes it so natural and so real. So how do you ask questions? Your questions is based on the response from your client. So asking questions serves to elicit facts. You're asking questions because you're trying to get facts. You're trying to get ideas. You're trying to get feelings, how they're thinking about the problem, concerning the person, the issue, the situation, or and then you're also trying to find out how can this become a potential solution. And that's why you're asking questions. You're not asking questions just to have, it may seem like it, a good assessor, someone who is really good at assessing and engaging their client. It just seems like a regular, natural conversation. They may say one thing and you may lead to another. And listen, please do not beat yourself up on this. It takes years and years and years and years. Because remember, social workers, we are lifelong learners. And there will be times when, you're gonna get the questions will flow just like that. It's smooth sailing. But then there may be some situation that come up and the client says something that so it's not a rehearsed thing. People's lives are not rehearsed. One purpose of it is that it helps you yield information about it helps yield information for mutual understanding, decision making, planning, and evaluating. Remember that asking questions help you to get a mutual understanding, okay? Because it's a mutual collaborative understanding of the problem, how we're going to solve this problem, the decision made, not how we're going to solve it, ways to get you to a place of enhanced well-being. Because and if you are able to solve it, well, we think that's wonderful. Some things may be solvable, like if someone they're fixing to get their light bill cut off. Well, you can solve that. You can pay the money and get the light cut on. But if you don't look at the root of the problem, why did they, how did they get in that financial burden? Guess what's going to happen? They're going to have another light bill that has to be paid, and you're going to continue that cycle. So, you have to get to the root of the problem, what's continuing to happen so that these families can get to a place of enhanced well-being, and we're not doing any harm. But anyway, when you're asking questions, you're doing it to get a mutual understanding. It helps with your decision making as well as your planning and evaluating. Because remember, all your work has to be evaluated. Okay, you need to evaluate the work. Then what type of questions do you do? Do you ask when you're trying to get information? Of course, you want to ask open-ended questions. Those are things that keep the conversation going. We've talked about that in class. And you can see on page 322, there are different types. You have closed-ended questions. Those when you just want an answer. You want a short answer. But open-ended question, that provides the client to express themselves, and they can continue to expound on the conversation, and you can get information. How you doing? Fine. Or, well, what have you been doing lately? That gives you, you have to decide, are you going to be open end or closed? If you do closed question, you're going to get closed answer. If you do open end, there's a possibility that you can get as much information from that client and a whole lot of things that you probably normally would not get if you ask closed-ended questions. So you have to know your client and situation. And then you all of this involves a relationship, and so as you begin to, if you want a short interview, ask close-ended question. They're gonna get blah 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 blah. But if you want to get more information, continue your questions. Look on page 322, and here's it. It says it gives you some examples of closed-ended questions, and then it also talks to you about how you continue the conversation. And I would encourage you to please read that on page 322. Okay, and 323. Just read the whole chapter. It will do you well. And then seeking clarification. My goal is for us to finish this chapter, and I'm sorry it's going to be longer, but then you'll have your homework at the end. But seeking clarification, you can find that on page 326. And this is an attempt for you to elicit more information on the meaning of the clients. You're just trying to get a little bit more information. They only told you just a little bit, but you're just trying to suggest a particular term or topic, maybe some relevance. You're just trying to get them to get a little bit. They may say something, and you may have to say, well, give me some more information. I'm not sure I understood it. This is what you meant by this? And then that occurs in a very discreet form, because if not, your client is thinking that you don't trust them. So this comes from in the form of opening questions. You don't just say, well, I'm seeking clarity. There's a skill that is used to help you get that. And look on page, like I said, 326 in your book. Helpful seeking clarification is helpful where the social worker and the client culture is different. There may be a cultural difference, and so it's good to seek conversation, clarification about something where you're not sure about, and you can ask it in a, or sometimes you can say, I'm now my understanding. Let me give you this is a little example, and y'all taught me this, and I'm very, now that you've taught me that, I'm cautious. Like, to me, tea. Give me some tea. Give me the tea. I want some tea. I'm talking about a beverage, sweet tea, decaffeinated. But depending on the group or who I'm talking about, I can say, give me the tea and some tea. They may think I'm talking about gossip. So, and if I'm talking to somebody and they say, well, give me the tea, and I'm like, well, I didn't, are you talking about a beverage, or we're talking about, can you explain to me, what do you mean by tea? And that depends on if you're talking to, who you're talking to. So that may not be the best example, but I want you to see different terminology and different language may be different to different people. Okay, just know that, and you can understand. So sometimes you can say, well, what specifically do you mean? I heard you just say this. Help me to understand this better. And would you please elaborate on that? Or please explain what you meant by that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. There's nothing wrong with seeking clarification. It's very important, because if you don't get clarification and get understanding, you may document or misunderstand something a client said, and it may not. It has a whole different meaning in another culture, or has a whole different meaning to someone else. So it's very important to seek clarification in the work that we do. Now, you're saying, I've done all this, I've introduced myself, I told them the purpose of our meetings or the goals. I've asked opening questions. I've asked, I'm sitting in a solo position. I'm making eye contact. I've kept my word. I'm practicing integrity. I'm treating them with dignity and respect. And they still won't tell me nothing. They continue to withhold information. Clients will do that. Because for one thing, they got to know that they can trust you. Now, just imagine, people got to know that they can trust you with their story. They got to be able to trust you, and that you're going to hold their story. And they may tell you just a little bit, just to see what you're going to do and see, are you going to keep your word. So let's look at on your PowerPoint it's 19. It's the PowerPoint that says reason why clients withhold information. One thing, their uncertainty about what one thinks or feels. They're not sure. They're not sure. And then you're a stranger. There may be an age difference, a gender difference, it might be a race difference. There may be socioeconomic status different. There may be a lot of reasons, and they might just don't. They don't know. And like I've said before, take one of your most embarrassing moments, or most painful moments, and just share it with a stranger. How, that may be why they don't want to tell you. Non-existence of relevant words, phrases, or gestures in other cultures. They might not know what you're talking about. Are reluctant to ask directly for help due to their culture or other reason. They may not trust you. They may not know. And it has nothing to do with you. That's why you have to build a rapport with your client. So just when a person withhold information from you, you got to ask yourself, okay, I got to look at it. It may not be something that you did, but it could be culture, it could be age, it could be gender, it could be a lot of things. But you have to work at it and recognize, or and ask them, is there a reason why you don't want to talk to me? And be prepared for it, because they may just say, I don't want to talk, I don't trust you, and they don't even know you. So as a social worker, you just have to, staff that with your supervisor or your superior and say, okay, If you're the only social worker there, you may have to let them know, see, can you refer them somewhere else, or ask them, hey, are you willing to give me a chance? Um, so, which lead me to our next discussion is reflecting content, and that's found on page 329, and that's for example, if someone said, well, I don't want to work with you, I don't want to work with you because you graduate from Ole Miss. I don't like Ole Miss. I don't like what the university stand for. So then, instead of you just getting upset about that, I can understand. Explore that. Explore why they don't want to. Why do they feel that way about students who come from university? Are there, is there a bias? I mean, is there a stereotype that all students come from here may be this way? Explore that, and then talk to them about it, and then ask them, are you willing to give me a chance? Or, and look, have empathetic skills of communicating, one, understanding factual and descriptive part of the message. Okay, so restating the client's words to demonstrate understanding. Now there's a difference between, there's a difference between restating the client's word and reflective listening. Okay, big difference. Okay, restating the client's word is what they say, and reflective listening is kind of paraphrasing it in a way that that the client knows that you understand how they're feeling or how they feel about the situation. One of the things you want to be careful is when you reflect, because if you reflect incorrect, you can offend your clients, and your client may or may not trust you. Accurate reflections of content is very important because it contributes to the development of a positive working relationship. Because if and this is some things, what I do, I say, well, what I heard, I understood you to say, or this is what I heard you say. And it may not, and they may be like, no, that ain't what I said, not at all. So that gives you an opportunity to clarify what you said and to provide feedback, give them feedback so that they'll feel that you understood them, and it's okay to say, I'm sorry, I misunderstood that. And you can look on that, reflecting content. That's important. After every assessment and before the end of your interview, you have to go back. So let's talk about, let me reflect what I heard you say. I heard you say this. I'm thinking about one video I think I remember. I'm hoping I saw it. I was like, yes, that person did. I think somebody job was impacted by this, and they were concerned about providing for their family, and I think the worker did really good. And so you're reflecting what we talked about. So make sure at the end of your interview, before you cut off, you're reflecting. So this is what we talked about today, and this is some of the things that you're gonna do. These are some of the things that I heard you say, and you just reflecting the content of what was discussed in your meeting with that client, because that goes, because at the beginning of your interview to the end, a lot of things are gonna be said, and so the client may have forgotten some of the things that they said. So you want to make sure that you reflect that in your the content. That's exactly what was said. What was said, paraphrasing or reflecting, or what was said. Then you have what we call and then you have to understand reflecting content is a skill most applicable when a client communicates factual or descriptive material. And so read that, and so that you can like you're saying this, or you're reflecting that. Now look on page 332. You reflected what they're feeling. I mean, the content of the conversation, but now you have to reflect the feelings. Okay, and so you have to be. You can tell that sometimes by body language. You can also, sometimes they may express how they're feeling, and that's a brief response that communicates understanding of feelings expressed by a client. Reflect on feelings that are verbally expressed first. The feelings that they say verbally that they feel, you reflect on those first, because they said that. So this is making you sad, because if they said it make them scared. So I'm scared when this happened. So I see that this makes you scared. when this happened. And then indicate unspoken feelings after a foundation of accurate reflection is established. Then as you continue progress to your interview, then you'll begin to reflect those unspoken things that they they may not have said. So that means you're going to have to know different types of feelings, and there's you can Google different types of feelings in case you don't know. But people have different types of emotion. Professionals should be familiar with feeling words used by cultural groups. You just got to be familiar with, and I'm not expecting you, or no other professional is expecting you to know all the feelings and words that are communicated by different cultural groups. But when you're doing your work beforehand, preparing and knowing who you're going to see, you may be able to do a little research before you engage in your client. So just know that you have to do preparation work, and we talked about that last week. The preparation work that takes place before you see your client. So you want to make sure that you are able to know, be able to reflect feelings, and that you are aware that different cultures have different forms of feelings, and that you have a good understanding of that. I'm trying to think of something that I just think if somebody said, man, that's bad. Like, to me, I think bad is bad, but some generations and some cultures, when somebody say, "Oh, she's bad, man, she's bad," and bad means good, and good means bad. I don't know, but depending on the age group, you can like, that chick bad. I'm like, what's bad about her? But they really maybe mean that's good. So you have to be able to reflect that feeling, those feelings, and know the right terminology for you get in there, because you wouldn't want to say, man, that's bad, and it's really good, or may not be good or bad. You get what I'm talking about. I know you do. Okay. Now, reflecting meaning and feelings. Now, this right here can be real tricky, y'all. And you can find this on page 336 in your book. And it is one of the things, it is probably one of the most complete form of active listening. It is certainly the most complex by reflecting both emotions and informational or ideation elements of the message you convey a great deal of empathy. So you have to be able to reflect in both emotional and informational elements of the message. So that means you're able to pick up on their feelings. You can pick up on the information that they're said. You're able to pick up, and that takes skill, and you're gonna get it. Trust me, you're gonna get it. And I'm gonna be looking for that kind of things. It's mirror like a mirror, clients' emotions and the facts or the beliefs associated with them. I'm thinking about my dad in that interview, and like I said, that's pretty scary. You pretty unsure. And he said, "Yeah, you're right." I think it was something to that. The meaning associated with the feeling is externalized or internalized. And that means you have to be able to say, is that something on the inside that you're feeling? Or is that something external? Are there external factors, or is that internalized feelings that you're having that's going on the inside? And you help them process that. That's very important. Like I said, it takes skills, and that you're able to have to. I remember one video, I think a man was talking about his spouse didn't want him to use the car, and he couldn't work, and it was a whole lot of different things. And that was a great opportunity, like you could reflect something. I can see how frustrating this makes you feel, because you're not able to you want to provide for your family, but on the same token, your wife is not understanding the need for you to get to work, and you can't. So I bet that would make you angry. And if y'all notice, when you're starting to talk and reflect emotion, you see how I changed the tone in my voice. Because if you talk a little softer, that kind of brings the intimacy part, the intimate, not intimacy, but the intimate part of that working relationship, so they can, and that brings them in. And and so I can see how that's very concerning to you. So you can do that with your client. Again, that's being able to reflect meaning and reflect the feelings, and that's part of active listening. So you have to be fully engaged. I mean, I heard all kind of examples, and was looking at those videos and could see. And I'm so proud. Most of you done very well. I mean, I think pretty much everybody was able to reflect what you were hearing, but we want to reflect the meaning of that. So if you, and like on that one, if you're not able to drive, so you're not able, so does what does that mean to you? Does that mean that you won't be able to work? You may not be able to pay your bills, be able to provide for your family. And he never may not even said all that, but you can reflect and know that because you have these tools in your toolbox. And then I heard one person, I think they worked in a manager type job, and they wanted to be able to reflect, so now, you're used to leading your team, and you're having to stay up and stuff, but what are you doing to take care of yourself? Those are some kind of things that you can do. Okay, then let's turn to partializing. A lot of times, and this is found on page 339 in your book, you want to read that, and it is used to help clients break down several aspects and dimensions of the person, issue, situation into a manageable unit. One of the things I was listening to, I'm going to take the person that was talking about the wife wouldn't let him use the car. Somebody wouldn't let him use the car. And if you break that down, first I noticed it was about the car. Then it's about the wife. Then it's about the driver's license came in. Then it's about I think not paying child support. So there was a whole, the more he talked and I was listening and she was listening, it was beginning to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so you can see how the client was just getting, the mood setting up, even if it was a made up story, but it was still, it initially was the car. She won't let me use the car. Then the more they talked, then it became about, I don't know if she loved me or not. Then if she don't love me, I don't know if it's that she loved me. Well, I can't drive, I can't get to work. Then it became about they took my driver's license, and then the insurance, and I don't got in trouble. I don't break the car. It just got big, 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 big. There, when you have a situation like that, when the client continues to, that it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, that's so much that sometimes it helps to partialize, break it up into little small chunks and pieces, and let us take one piece at a time. In another form, they call it compartmentalizing. People, break it down in different things. But this is used to help clients, break their situation down into manageable parts. And just think about when you listen to people's problems. Have you heard so many problems? You're like, wait a minute. Let me just break this down and let's see what can we manage. One, it's going to be important to you as a client. As a social worker working with clients or communities or whatever form, whether it's individuals, families, or group, that you're able to learn how to break that down, because if not, that it's going to be so big and so overwhelming to them that they don't ever feel like they're going to get to where the problem can be solved or resolved or minimized or reduced or eliminated or whatever. And it helps address issues easily and maintain a sense of coherency, because you don't want they be all over the place. Like and there was another person I was listening to that they went from one aspect of the interview to the next. It was all over the place. It was kind of hard to follow. But see, a skilled social worker knows how to break that thing into small pieces so that you're, that state of control. You controlling the as much as you can, how the flow of the interview, okay, or the assessment, okay. And going beyond. Now, y'all, I like this stuff right here. Now, I like it all. I'm just going to tell you. Look on page 342. Now this going beyond is what it said. Uh, going beyond is going beyond. The client may say one thing, but you are going beyond what they're saying, but you're still talking about in an empathetic way of what they're saying. That was good stuff right there. Okay, it occurs when empathetic understanding is used to extend slightly what was expressed. Social workers use knowledge, experience, and intuition to add to feelings, meaning, and actually communicated. There are several places I can do. I'm gonna start with my dad. When I did that interview with him, I can understand. You don't want to use the computer and having to do this can be complicated. And I forgot I'm about telling y'all about your work. But anyway, going beyond is when when the client really feels like, man, she feels me or he feels me, he got it, like you really get it. It involves combining what a client says verbally and what they express non-verbally. Okay, there's skills, and that would be, you looking at their body language, and you can say, I can see that makes you uncomfortable. You have to say those things, and you've had a whole lot that has been poured onto you, and you've had to deal with this ongoing, and it's been happening for a long time, and so I can see that this is really wearing and tearing down on you right now, and maybe we can get you some help. Hopefully that we can work with you. You're going beyond. You're really. You're just really going deeper into the empathetic listening with that client, so that client knows that you really truly understand them and feel what they're saying. Okay, that's going beyond, which is found on page 342 in your workbook. And then and as you continue that, you go into reflecting issues, and that involves paraphrasing and highlighting the issue that client wishes to address. Because you remember now, because sometimes the problems are so broad that sometimes you have to partialize, break that thing up, and so then you go back and you'll be like, well, Mr. So and so, Mr. Tom and Mr. Harris, understand that you can't get the car, you can't do this, and you do this. So what can I help with you first? But you still acknowledge those other things. So this is how we're gonna. These are the issues that you had. We have agreed that you want to work on this first. And this demonstrates that clients' experience and perspectives about the issue is understood, because you're going back and reflecting to them, what they want to work on, highlighting the issues as they see them, and then you can talk about addressing them. And you can find that on page 344 in your book. And it says that the client understand and view identified needs, problems, and topics of concern. You want to make sure that they understand. As you see it, one of the issues you like to address in our working together is this. That's after you partialize. If it's someone out there, you have a lot of things that you said that you want to work on. Which one would you want to work on first? Which one would help you get to a place where you feel that you're at peace, or that will enhance your quality or your well-being? And that's how you do that. And then reflecting issue conveys respect for the clients and their person, goes back to the core values of social work. Endorses the client's right to autonomy and self-determination. And now this is important. It endorses that client has the right to self-determination. They have a right to do what they feel that they want to do. They have that right. Now sometimes that right may be taken away due to court or something like that, but clients have the right to self-determination if they want to change and believe that they can change. And now what reflect an issue, it does not suggest moral approval or agreement to work toward resolution. It does not do that. It doesn't mean that you're supporting that, but You're just reflecting on the issues. It doesn't mean that you're saying what they're doing is right or wrong, but it's you're willing to work and reflecting their issues, okay? And then there are types of reflecting hypotheses. You got the explanatory, ideas used to explain the reason why, the problem exists. That's an explanatory. And you can find this on page 347 in your book. Okay, that's page 347 in your book. There are types. You have explanatory, then you have change oriented. And this is predictions about resolution or problems or achievement or goals could or should occur. These are your change oriented hypotheses. These are your predictions. How will this change look? What goals should be achieved? How should it occur? Those called change oriented, and do not necessarily remain fixed or unaltered. It doesn't have to be set. It's fluid. It could keep it's continuous moving. It doesn't necessarily have to main. If they say, well, my goal is to, whatever it could be. My goal is to lose, 10 pounds this month. Well, if it looks like you're not reaching a goal, it's okay. My goal is to lose 1 pound a week. So it's just not something set in stone, okay? But as long as you do it using collaborative efforts with your client, then you'll be able to reflect these different hypotheses. Is this a change or that it can change, okay? Just like life, and we believe that people have the potential to change. People can change. Their goals can change. The outcome of it can change. It can be altered, okay? Just know that. Now, whew, that was a mouthful. And I'm sorry I had to break it up, but I just wanted you to do that. Now, we do have homework, and I'm going to post the homework on your discussion board. But your homework is going to be on page, I'm going to go ahead and give it to you. I always say that. On page 351. And I'm going to give you you have homework you'll need to complete. This is your homework. Page 351. On number 1, I want you to choose between one of the scenarios, A, B, C, or D, and answer the question using all the instructions given on number 1. You'll do that, okay? Then on page 352, and I'm gonna give you the instructions on Blackboard. You have your experimental interviewing exercise, okay? This is preparing you for your final interview. I want you to take I want you to use on number 2 on page 352 on the chapter 9 experimental interviewing exercise. Look at question number 2. Now I want you to go back to your video and identify some strengths that you had. You know what? I'm not gonna do that to y'all. Not gonna do it. Let's do this. I'm sorry, y'all, because I don't want to give you too much at one time. Look at here. Page 351 on number 1, answer number 1 and choose scenario A, B, C, or D. Just choose one of them. Be detailed in your report. And then go to page 355 and answer the first question. As you finish this chapter, please reflect on your learning. by using the following space to identify any ideas, terms, or concept addressed in Chapter 9 that remains confusing. I want you are unclear. Answer that. And then I want you to do the self-appraisal rate scale. And then I think that we can submit that by, I'm looking at my calendar. I think we can get that done by the 18th. Okay? You'll submit that to me by the 18th. And I will plan for us to have Zoom learning session on the 16th. And on the 16th, we will be covering chapter 10. And we will be looking at assessing. Okay? So we're going to do, we will do chapter 10 on the 16th. You will watch this video, this lecture note video, and you will complete your homework. And your homework is found again, and I'm going to put it on Blackboard, and I'll put it on Blackboard, so don't worry about it. Watch these videos and do your other, and your homework for this chapter will be due on the 18th at 11:59. Thank you. It's my understanding that this is supposed to have some pretty bad weather in here Sunday. Again, I'm recording on a Friday night. Please be mindful and weather conscious. And remember, y'all are doing a great job. Hang in there. We're almost to the end. Hang in there. So, chapter 9, we'll discuss chapter 10 in our Zoom session. And we'll move on from there. Thank you.